So welcome to the Ohio Family Engagement Leadership Summit. We are so glad that you could join us today for this day of professional learning that's meant to take family school community partnerships to the next level. My name is Julie Planke. I will be this session's moderator with the one and only Dr. Joyce Epstein. This session is number 8, Excellent and Equitable Programs of Family and Community Engagement, Lessons Learned on Design and Structure. If you have any questions, concerns, or technical issues, please message me privately in the chat. Our session is set to run from now until the summit's close at 3 p.m. If you would like contact hours for this session, as with all the other sessions, a code will be provided right at the end of the session. So please stick around if you want those contact hours and be on the lookout for that code. It will only be provided once. And to ensure that everyone gets the most out of today, we ask that all participants turn off their webcams and microphones. If you have questions for the presenter, please use the chat feature and I will pass them along at an appropriate time as well, but we'll also open up and you can show your faces and speak towards the end of the session during our question and answer portion. So you can also join the conversation on Twitter or X. Be sure to use the hashtag OHSummit24 to share your thoughts. So now it's my pleasure to introduce Joyce Epstein. She holds a PhD in sociology from Johns Hopkins University and is the director of the Center on School, Family, and Community Partnership and a professor of education at Johns Hopkins University School of Education. In 1995, she established the National Network of Partnership Schools, NNPS, which provides professional development for leaders to develop research-based programs of family and community engagement. She has over 150 publications, including School, Family, Community Partnerships, Your Handbook for Action, and textbooks for college courses, such as School, Family, and Community Partnerships, Preparing Educators and Improving Schools. Dr. Epstein was named a fellow of the American Educational Research Association in 2009 and received the Elizabeth Cohen Award for Applied Research in 2009 from AERA Sociology and Education Special Interest Group. In all her work, she is interested in the connections of research, policy, and practice. Dr. Epstein, we are so excited to learn from you this afternoon. Please take it away.
My pleasure. Thank you, Julie. And I'd like to thank Julie for her organized assistance and guidance in helping me meet with you today. I want to recognize the leader of the Ohio Statewide Family Engagement Center, Dr. Barbara Boone, who is a true national leader and a good friend and partner in the work that we're doing to help locations, whether it's the state level, regional level, a district level, and school level, to really use research-based approaches to build their program of family and community engagement. I like the title of your conference and tried to put it in my title here because the focus on design and structure is where research really can help you build partnership programs that are going to work. Everybody talks about how important this is. Everybody knows family engagement is really an important part of school work, school life, the connections of homeschool community, of teachers, parents, and others, leaders in the community. But it's easy to talk about it and say how important it is. And it's not so easy to make it all happen equitably across all families in all communities, wherever they are. And Ohio is doing a fantastic job under Barbara Boone's leadership and her excellent staff to really try to show, you know what, statewide connections are actually possible. So we're watching what you're doing in Ohio, and we invite you to join us as well to be part of the national picture. So I'm going to share some stories with you this afternoon that I hope you find helpful. And there'll be a long time at the end for Q&A. So here's what is going to happen here. Unlike some sessions, perhaps, there'll be time for Q&A where you have questions for me and I have questions for you. And so as Julie mentioned, you'll be able to make your mics live and your photos live at the end to ask your questions, or you can put them in the chat box. As you listen today, I would like you to jot down or put in the chat box what is not clear. When I'm talking about the story today, if you're saying, what is she talking about? That probably is a question. And so write it down and also tell me as we go along today, what else did you want to know that I was not really getting to the depth that you are interested in? So your questions for me will cover these two topics. What was not clear? What else do you want to know? My questions for you, I want to know how you're hearing what I'm talking about today, because it is complicated, because it's a lot of research over many, many years, all boiled down into the story that I have for you this afternoon. So what I want to know from you is, as you listen, what is one aha moment, something you didn't know or think about before? So as you're listening, say, oh, that's interesting. Jot that down so you can share with me when I ask you that question. What's an aha moment of something you heard this afternoon? And maybe it links to something you heard during your morning sessions. I'm interested. Secondly, what did you hear that showed the importance of design for good partnership programs? Your conference is about design. I'm talking about the construction of programs that requires design and structure. So what are you hearing in what I talk about that links to the theme of this conference? And finally, if you want to share, as you're listening, try to think about how would you use some of the information I'm talking about in your location. So I'm interested, and I will have questions for you that may be a little different from a Q&A session. So you can ask me questions, but I'm going to ask you questions too. Okay, so here's what's going to happen today. We're going to look at what is important about family engagement. And I want you to know kind of a very, very short history here. Going back to the 1960s, before I even started my work on this topic, researchers knew and documented students do better in school if their parents are engaged. That should not be news to anybody, regardless of income, background characteristics, or the student's starting level of achievement. So studies were beginning to build in the 70s and 80s that actually controlled background variables and so on. And every study, pretty much, I would say 98% of them, showed that if students had families who were engaged, those students did better in school, regardless of any background characteristic that the early researchers could control. That's important. But that fact above that we just talked about, this fact, families are important, hides two unacceptable inequalities. So how do you get this finding that families are important? You get it in regression analyses or correlation tables that show some parents are engaged and other parents aren't. That's what gives you a kind of a correlational line or a regression line. That is an unacceptable inequality. You get the good result, parents are important, but some families are engaged and others are not. Also, some students are benefiting and other students are not. That is an unacceptable inequality. Gives you a good result, something people can look at. Oh yes, parents are important, but some are involved others are not, and their kids benefit accordingly. So what that tells us is we have an agenda to work on. The findings, the social fact, families are important, and the inequalities that I just pointed out tell us that we need policies and practices that will fix that, will make the inequalities into better equalities. We want to have equitable partnership programs. We don't want to persist and have the simple finding perpetuated. We want to have change and improvement that's going to make programs more equitable. So that's what we've been working on. Here's a very brief history of our work at Johns Hopkins University. In 1981, when this was all called parent involvement, I started some basic research with colleagues, and we began to look into what are people talking about when they begin to talk about parent involvement. In 87, we moved also into field work to see if what we were finding in our research studies could be discussed and kind of managed and developed in schools that differed in their communities, all from one urban district. In 1996, you can see that's almost 10 years later, 9 years later, we thought we know enough now to invite others, other schools, districts, states, and organizations to join us so that we could put what we were finding in our studies into practice and see if it worked beyond our demonstration district where we did our early studies. So by 2021, we work slowly and we learn slowly, but we keep working at things. We had a 25th anniversary of our network. And over that time, we have worked with and learned from, by the way, over 5,000 schools and hundreds of districts all across the country. Every district and school that joined us and say, we'll try this, we'll use your handbook, we'll try to get research to be useful in practice. Every one of those locations taught us something too. And we tried to put that in each new edition of our handbook, which now is in its 4th edition. Then we became really interested in whether we're just continuing to do what we did before because it was in fact working. And this year, we started a new project changing the focus, the design, and the structure of NNPS, the National Network of Partnership Schools, to put the burden of leadership where it belongs, on the district leaders, on state leaders, in organizations that are trying to guide schools. Before we were saying, oh, come to NNPS, we'll help you do this work. And of course, we were also building the capacities of district, state, and organization leaders. But we also were sort of taking some care of their schools. Now we refocused our work to focus on the district, state, organization leaders and have them not just work with their project schools, the schools that were either Title I schools or schools in a special project, but all the schools in a district belong to the district leaders. All of the schools in a district are supposed to be implementing their official district and or state policies. So it wasn't being always completely helpful to have schools join us in Baltimore as school members of our network. The districts really should be organizing their members of all the schools in their district. So we refocused and have started something new after all these many years. We are either very smart or we're doing something foolish, but I think we're doing something smart. So we'll find out. It's a test. Our studies show year after year that strong district leaders, however sized the district, big districts, little districts, gigantic districts, districts in the United States run from one school in the district, in a charter district or in a tiny rural district, to over 1,000 schools in the big districts across the country. So districts are very interesting places. But our studies show that wherever, however large the district, strong district leaders make the difference in whether one or two schools, this school or that school, or all schools in the district are building and improving their partnership programs every year. Why is that so important? Because think about it. Every year, large numbers of people in any school change. Some kids graduate and move on to the next school. New parents come in, enroll their preschool or kindergarten children, become part of the school community. There's a lot of change and movement and growth or reductions in schools every single year. And so how a good district leader understands their own schools and starts to build their partnership programs is very important. And our studies and other studies, year after year, we were collecting data every year of those 25 anniversary years. But every year we would see the same result. Strong district leaders do more to help all of their schools, more of their schools, scaling up the number of schools. They do more to help this agenda grow into something normal in part of the design of school organization. And that is the goal. It isn't to say, have more people say this is important. We're way beyond that. It's to get this to work in practice in all schools. We say in all schools, with all families, for the success of all students. So in this session, this afternoon, I'm going to introduce you to 7 lessons learned about the design and structure of good partnership programs. And again, 2 kinds of questions, your questions for me, my questions for you. So we're going to go quickly through these lessons learned, see if you have any aha moments or something stands out as being particularly important or interesting to you in your location. So lesson 1. Lesson 1 is about the definition of these terms and the way we talk about it. What I do hope is that as we go through these lessons this afternoon, that you'll be able to talk about the agenda on good partnership programs in your location with your supervisors or your staff or your teachers, principals, and parents, so that you have the language that is up to date. So the first thing is the language itself. School, family, and community partnerships is a better term than parent involvement, which was how this all started many years ago, for research and for practice. Now, we still say parent involvement every once in a while. Some people prefer the term parent engagement. We use that also. We can use parent involvement, parent engagement, and partnerships in the same paragraph because it makes the reading a little more interesting. So we're not going to get hung up on the wording. But in general, this field of study is about school, family, and community partnerships. This word, partnerships, recognizes that everybody has a role to play. When we said parent involvement, often in the old days, people put the burden of doing family engagement things on the shoulders of the parents only. Parents got involved, that was good. Parents didn't get involved, well, can't expect this from everybody. And so parent involvement was really about the parent. That is not what partnership programs are designed to do. Rather, school, family, and community partnership says everyone has a role to play. Schools have roles to play, families, communities have roles to play in whether and how well students grow and change and reach their full potential. So when you're talking about this program back in your location, wherever it is, please try to use the words or bring them into your conversation that you're really talking about programs of partnership, school, family, and community partnerships. Everybody wants excellent schools and successful students. And we get that by having a theoretical model that underscores the new term, or the better term, it's not new anymore, school, family, and community partnerships. My theory is called overlapping spheres of influence. And we ask, where do children learn and grow? They learn and grow at home, at school, and in the community. These spheres of influence tell us we want to have strong schools, strong families, strong communities, and they have to come together so that they overlap in part, and in that area of overlap is where partnerships occur. When we bring these spheres of influence together, our studies and other studies, many studies at this point, show that more students do better in school when there are good partnerships. Now, out there in the real world, maybe where you are, maybe not, there still are some people who say, if the family would just do its job, send those kids here ready to learn, then we, the schools, could do our job. Those are sentences of separate spheres of influence. You do your job, I'll do my job. Don't bother me too often. We are separate spheres of influence. We know families are important. We know schools are important. These are important spheres of influence, but that leaves students hanging out in the cold often, not knowing who are they listening to. Am I listening to what my teachers and counselors and guides say? Or am I trying to get a parent to say, well, if you don't feel so well, you don't have to go to school today. It's really not a coherent overlap or consistent messages across important units in children's lives. So our studies, and now many others, show if we bring the spheres of influence together so that they overlap, the overlapping space is where partnerships occur. The non-overlapping space is what families do on their own or communities do on their own. There's lots of that going on too. But in the partnership space, if we bring spheres of influence together, more students do better in school. And so the theory gives us the grounding for using the term school, family, and community partnerships. Lesson 2. So now I'm showing you we're moving quickly through 7 lessons. So if you heard something interesting or you wanted to make a note or question about it for lesson 1 about using the term school, family, community partnerships, jot it down, or you can come back. They're recording the session so you can look back and see what we're talking about. Lesson 2. School, family, and community partnerships, by its very name, is a multi-dimensional concept. School, family, community. 3 dimensions of part of this theoretical model. What this really means is we had to figure out what's going on as a kind of a multi-dimensional design and concept. So we did several studies, and what came out of those studies, data-wise, is helped us develop a framework of 6 types of involvement or engagement or partnership. The types in our studies had to be separable activities. That's how you would know their actual types in a typology. Even though no typology in the universe has pure types, we were able to show these were separable activities that had identified separable and unique challenges, each type, and different results regarding each type of involvement, leading to different and important results. So our framework of 6 types became very helpful because it was usable, and the design of it helped schools and districts actually design their programs to cover these separable and important types of engagement. What it really also showed us was that parents can be engaged in different ways and different places. In some cases, schools were judging parents on whether they showed up, whether they were visible. And what we learned from the 6 types is, well, there's some things that get done at home, some things that get done at school, and some things in the community that engage parents, and they may not be visible at the school at all, but they're still engaged parents. So lesson 2, this is multidimensional, tells us that we need good design so that parents can be recognized for how they're engaged in different ways and in different places. That's hard. If you're seeing people, that's sort of an easy way to judge people's participation. If you're not seeing people, you may not know who is doing what or where, and that may color how you see family engagement. But what we learned was that the 6 types of engagement can engage people in different ways, in different places, and be helpful and useful wherever. So here's a very swift version of the 6 types. If you want a whole lot more information, and you go to our website, which you'll see at the end of this set of slides, www.partnershipschools.org, there's a huge amount of information on each of the 6 types in various places on the web, and definitely in our handbook, just chock full. So what are the 6 types for those of you for whom this may be new today? Type 1 is parenting. That is not about telling parents how to parent. It's about helping parents know what they ask to know about their child's development in early childhood, middle grades, their child and adolescent development. Also, please know each type of involvement or engagement is 2-directional. It isn't about just schools giving parents information. It's also about families giving schools information. And we say it's very important for educators to know who their families are, so that when they design activities for engagement, they are being realistic and they're being helpful to the parents of the children in the school. Whether that's by grade level, parents in preschools need to be engaged in different ways from parents at the high school level. So there's a lot going on in the 6 types of involvement. They're all multidirectional so that people get involved in different ways and different places. Type 2 is about communicating. Everything that we do in the universe is about communicating. So this communicating is about school programs and children's progress. What do parents want to know most about? What's happening at the school that will help my child? How is my child doing? That's children's progress. And so it is 2-way. Parents have to be able to ask questions or follow up information or provide information on children's progress and on school programs that would be helpful to them. Type 3 is about volunteering. Everyone knows there are some volunteers in most schools, mostly at all grade levels, in the school building or in classrooms. Sometimes people recognize families can be volunteers at home. And in our work in NNPS, the national network, we are able to add families as audience members as another kind of volunteer. If parents give their time to attend sports activities or drama productions or musical kinds of concerts and children's presentations and all kinds of things as audience, they're volunteering their time to support children's learning. And they're very important to the children and to the schools, so they can be counted as volunteers too. Type 4 is learning at home, which has to do with homework or course choices at the high school level and the building of other talents. Most of the questions we receive from parents, often from teachers, is what do we mean by how to help with homework? And what we don't mean is to have parents think that they are supposed to teach every subject in every grade level to their children at every ability level. Impossible. So we've worked very hard to identify learning at home activities that help teachers engage parents through the children being in charge of the homework. And then the conversations that can occur at home can be motivating, can help the parent and child talk about schoolwork in a new way without parents thinking that they're supposed to teach. They cannot do that at every grade level, on every subject, every year. It's just crazy. So we don't want to put into these kinds of definitions of types things that cannot be done. We studied and learned things that can be helpful and put that into tools and materials and strategies and design of programs that actually people can use and benefit from. Type 5 has to do with decision making, and that has to do with the voices of parents and community partners and teachers who get heard at the school about school decisions. So if your schools are hearing from only one group of parents or the few loudest voices, there's some work to be done by design to get every family's voice heard. And we have ways in our handbook to suggest how to do that. Finally, type 6 is collaborating with the community, something every school pretty much knows as business partners, but we have found it's much, much more than just business partners. There's all kinds of resources in every community, in communities that have great economic advantages and in communities that have few economic resources. There's still resources there among parents, among shopkeepers, among grandparents, among others in the community that help build a good partnership program. And many of our schools recognize the two-way nature of this type of involvement too. Communities help schools, and schools and children and families can help their communities. So we have a lot of examples in our network of philanthropic activities identified by the children about what it would be needed to improve their community. And I love those programs because they really put the burden and the opportunity structure in a much broader sense. So the 6 types of involvement, engagement, participation, or partnerships really help parents get involved in different ways, different places. And all 6 types are part of a comprehensive school-based partnership program. When we first started, schools would say to us, okay, we'll start with type 1 this year, and we'll grow our program. Next year, we'll add type 2. That's not how this works. So that we have guidelines in our handbook for using all 6 types in a comprehensive program in a doable way. Lesson 3. A partnership program is an essential component of school and classroom organization. I like to say it's like reading. It's like math. It's like testing or assessments, part of every good school organization. I'm a sociologist. I like to think that we're bringing something to this field of study that is different. Sociologists are concerned about the organization of a program or place, and that it is an essential, early on, it was a new component of a good school. Now the schools in Ohio that have been working with Barbara Boone and her team really recognize this is a part of our good school organization. We have a team, we write a plan, we use the 6 types, we build our partnership program, and we personalize or customize it to our own community, because communities differ everywhere. They're big, they're little, they're rural, they're urban, they're all different populations of people, all different languages. But as a school organization, a good school has a partnership program that is planful, gets better every year, is not magical, something people have to work on. What we identified in our studies across thinking about school organization, really this is heart and soul design of school programs, are 8 essential elements of a good school organization of family engagement that improve their partnership programs in 2 ways. Makes it a welcoming school, so everybody feels they want to be there and be helpful and visit and talk to each other and help each other and so on, and increase student success in school. If you didn't have students involved in schools, parents would not be talking to teachers. There wouldn't be any reason to do that. So we have 2 general big outcomes of this organizational work. Create a welcoming school, have families help teachers, help students do their best, meet their full potential. So what are these 8 essential elements that we build? They aren't in a can. We don't open them up and out pop 8 elements. So we have to develop them. And they are leadership for family engagement, teamwork, very important, not one person's job, action plans. We have to have a way to make progress from year to year. It isn't just we're going to do everything all at once. Implementation. We don't just write plans, we implement them. Evaluation, so that we know how far we've come from year to year. Collegial support. It's not one person's work. Everybody sort of can chip in their different talents and different timelines for colleagues, not just one leader or one parent who takes this on. Funding. Budgets are always important. A lot of our work is supported in Title I schools by Title I funds, but not every school is a Title I school, but every school has students, families, and communities to work together. Networking, not an isolated task. It's about how we network together so that we learn from each other. And all of these, all 8 of these essential elements, they should look familiar to you because they're really about other school organizational components too, but all of them are by design. They don't just happen, they don't pop out of a can, they have to be designed. So in our work, we know that heart and soul of this is that district level leaders for partnerships, people for whom that's their assignment. You are a district level leader. Your job is good partnerships because that's going to help all of our students know they're supported at home, at school, and in the community. And we're going to guide school-based teams to reach their families and work with their students, families, and community partners. So it's not something that stays at the district level. in a district office that families really don't relate to much at all, but it's going to be the district leaders who help the schools do all of this work in a way that works, whether they are in a preschool, elementary, middle, or high school, and they're going to differ, or whether they're in this community or that community with this population or that population, wherever they are, whoever they are, this can work, but it must be customized and tailored to place. So teamwork, very important. You'll see that we are really talking about teams instead of one person being in charge of everything about family engagement. We learned early on, maybe the first year, that it was really impossible and undefendable to have one person in charge of any program. You wouldn't have one person in charge of reading or math. You have every teacher doing this work, or you have coaches doing that work. You must really begin to think about the leadership of that work being distributed among different team members. And evaluation, very important. When we first started, people evaluated the parents. That was strange. Did a parent come to a meeting? If so, they were a good parent. What about the other parents? Well, schools are not about the parents. Schools are about the students. And we use school, family, and community partnerships as a vehicle for creating a better place for more students. That's what partnerships are focused on. So we have a step-by-step design for all of this in our handbook. It's called School, Family, Community Partnerships, Your Handbook for Action. And I have a list at the end of this session of all the references that may help you. Let's look at the action team. Teamwork is so important that I want to just take one slide to look at the action team for partnerships, which has at least 2 or 3 teachers from different grade levels if possible, 2 or 3 parents or family members also from different grade levels or different neighborhoods. Principal must be on the team because principals are the leaders of their school. If they don't want partnerships to happen, partnerships are not going to happen, no matter what research says or no matter how much we agree that this is an important part of good school organization. So the principal, assistant principal, vice principals, all are important members of a school-based action team for partnership, however it's called. We call it a partnership team. Some people like to give it their own name. That's okay. Because we're working across the country, we have to have a common kind of term, and we say action team for partnerships. And others are on the team. Counselors are very important in the middle high school level. Counselors have been trained to think well and think deeply about family engagement and partnerships with parents, and so are the PTA or PTO representative and others. A lot of different people serve on a team by the design or the decisions of that particular school. The school team or the district level leader can guide schools in a particular direction. At the high school level, we ask for 1 or 2 students to serve on the high school team because their voices count too. Here's a team from Seattle, Washington, and you can see they took the at least statement in this slide very seriously. There are many more than just 6 or 7 people. And when they took a picture to recognize their award for good work, some of them brought their kids along because that's who we're talking about when we talk about good partnerships. And you probably can't tell the difference in this picture between who is the parent, who is the teacher, which one is the principal. We're not sure. Doesn't matter. They're all part of the team. Lesson 4. Programs of family engagement must focus on student learning and development. I sort of hinted to this before, that early on, some people were measuring the parents. Don't do that. We accept our families for who and what and which and whether they are visible and active at the school building, at home, in the community. Our focus is on student learning and development. Effective partnership programs are goal-linked. And again, that special word, by design, to increase student success. Now, what do we mean by goal-linked? What we really mean is that we don't just do family engagement for family engagement's sake. We do family engagement in order that the families, the communities, teachers, students, and anyone who is a part of any of those groups are working together to increase student success in what? Well, what are the goals in your school improvement plan that teachers work hard on every day? We want our family engagement activities to be supportive, linked, and enhancing the same goals that are important for student success that are outlined in the school improvement plan. One plan per school improvement plan. Everybody works to get those outcomes that are the desired results to actually happen. This may be academic results, so we can engage families and community partners in any of the academic subjects, in reading or math or science, writing, STEM subjects, social studies, whatever is in the school improvement plan that we're saying teachers are telling students every day, learn this, this is important. We can find roles for families and community partners to play that enhance that goal-linked kind of engagement that enriches student learning. Now, that is definitely a design feature. If you want a family engagement activity to link to reading or to link to math or to link to science, you have to design how to make that happen. It doesn't happen just by saying, well, families, look, reading is important. Or look at how STEM subjects have grown to be an important extension of all the ways we can do science and math in schools. It's a matter of designing materials, procedures, processes that work, and then testing them to make sure they work. We can design things out of the clear blue sky, or we can test them in studies or in practical kinds of constructions that make us see that this is helpful to students, helpful to families in how they talk with students about academic subjects. We can do the same thing for non-academic goals that are in our school improvement plans. School improvement plans are also about good attendance, keeping good health, mental health, physical health, understanding family cultures and backgrounds and people who are different from each other. And it also, by the way, is very enriching, as we've seen over many years in many places, for the arts and technology and the enrichment subjects that are in school. Family engagement can be designed to bring family and community partners to bear with students, with their teachers, with their counselors, with other staff members, coaches, and others, so that we work, that everyone is trying to encourage and to recognize or to reward or to acknowledge the important learning that students do in academic areas, non-academic or behavioral areas, and in the arts. This makes for well-rounded students who really have different ways to have their own talents emerge. Not every student is going to be an an engineer, scientist out of the STEM subject of science in the way it's taught in school. Maybe they're going to be a health professional. Maybe they're going to be an artist or musician or dancer. And we don't exactly know all the different ways that student talents and abilities, interests, and kinds of steps in progress across grade levels is going to occur. So we really, it's like our school improvement plans. We have to do it all. These are all in our school improvement plans: academic areas, behavioral areas, and the arts. And so we work at those, and students emerge with different talents and different abilities, and families and community partners reinforce what is going to help students know they are supported in the growth in these different ways, in these different disciplines and areas. Lesson 5. Programs of family engagement require multi-level leadership. So this is an extension of what we talked about a little bit over all these slides, and certainly the multidimensional area. But multi-level leadership is what we have been working with, also with the Ohio Family Engagement Center, to learn as they developed and grew their program over the past 5+ years of what do we mean by multi-level leadership. So you all have been very helpful in practice to help us do research in a way that is going to stipulate or specify what we mean by multi-level leadership. And what we do mean is that leaders in districts, organizations, and states are all key to whether this happens broadly or in 1 or 2 schools here or there. And our state policies or district policies do not say family engagement may be haphazard or individual and may occur in this school or that school and not other schools. That's not what policy says. Policy says every school.
I said, it's I'm being too nice.
I thought you could just get us involved now.
Somebody,
Yeah, I need to get an attorney. I actually got a number.
somebody needs to mute their word. Somebody needs to mute their mic.
Migración. Pero mi amiga me mandó un contacto de una abogada, nomás que it's like money, you know. I know it's okay.
Julie, can you get that person to mute their mic?
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm trying to find them.
A lot of people.
Yeah. Got it. Sorry about that, everyone.
Not a problem. That's what happens. We've been doing Zooming for 4 years now, but we still forget to mic and forget to unmute and so on. So let's go back. We're on lesson 5 on requiring multi-level leadership, which we've been working on and being very much helped by the work that's gone on in Ohio over the past 5+ years. So we have district level leaders, we have organization leaders, we have state leaders, and everybody, again, has a role to play in good partnerships, whether we're organizing programs or evaluating them or making plans for how they're going to improve from one year to the next. So we worked with Barbara Boone and her team, and we developed what we call a leadership ladder. And what this does is help distribute different tasks to different leaders so that they all can succeed and do their work. Often in the past, we were finding that one person was in charge of everything about partnerships, and they had to do everything themselves, which either they burned out, they burned out, or they left for a new job. But with the leadership ladder, we distribute the leadership. So let's take a look at how that looks. We're really asking, whose responsibility is it? Before we really had this in kind of it's been a kind of a vision for a long time, but before we actually had it in place, in part because the Ohio Statewide Family Engagement Center was taking a regional approach. And so we had to think hard about what states do, what regions do, how district leaders are involved, and how we get to the school level, which is where the students are. And so what we learned, and now help others to learn, is that state and regional leaders who are in charge of good partnership programs really have to focus their attention on how they, as good leaders, help district leaders learn to do their job. Then the district level leaders are the ones who can reach out to their own schools and their action teams for partnerships. If a state leader is trying to reach every school in the state, even regional leaders who might have many, many districts in their region, if they try to reach their schools and tell them how they're going to build their partnership programs and what they're looking for and how they're going to evaluate their progress, they will fail because the state is too far away and too remote and really not part of parents' kind of feelings or connections to their districts or their schools. So by having a leadership ladder, we say, well, state and regional leaders, if you focus on strengthening what district leaders know and do, and they know that you're the experts for helping them, that they're going to be able to talk with you or kind of ask questions that are going to get good answers, then the district leaders can, in fact, help every school in their district. Now, some districts are very small, 1, 2, 3 schools. Some districts are very, very large. So it's not just one person in a large district. It might be a staff of folks who are really working together to reach all their schools. Some of our big districts have areas, and each area has a district leader for their set of schools. Then the schools can actually engage all families. They can work with their own students' families. And the families and the schools, all the green colors that you see here, can and do sort of increase student success in school. So we know that if a state leader is trying to reach every single family, that is not going to work. So we must distribute leadership, which is a common phrase in other school organizational kinds of experiences. We talk about distributed leadership, shared leadership, because we know that we really have to have a way to guide people to do the work, to reach the people who are going to make a difference because they connect. So parents connect with their children's schools. Now, they may connect with the district a little bit, but not much. Parents connect with their children's schools. You can see the 2 directional arrows. And families and schools, the teachers, the counselors, the coaches, the volunteers in the school are the ones who are going to connect with students. Students don't connect much at all with district level leaders, certainly not with regional or state leaders. So we have to be clear of whose responsibility is it. Lesson 6. All programs about family, school, community partnership are actually about equity. Everything we've talked about this afternoon is about equity. It's not about helping those who already have, do, or do not need attention to just keep doing what they're doing because it's easy. Equity says we recognize that all parents really care about their kids. They want to be involved. The numbers that we would put in some other bucket are very, very small, regardless of income, race, ethnicity, language spoken at home, or other background variables. Parents care about their kids. They may not know exactly how to help at home at every single grade level with every child, depending on their skills, talents, and interests, but they're caring about the children's growth and development and progress. District level leaders, by policy directive, are told to help all schools engage all families. That's what the policies say. They don't say engage some of the parents some of the time. They don't say engage some of the parents with some of their children. That would be total inequity, where we started way back at the start of this discussion. That would be perpetuating the inequities that we recognize in the kind of early analyses of data. Now we know this work we do, the work that you are interested in doing, or you wouldn't be spending a whole day with Barbara Boone and her team talking about partnerships. It's about equity. We want to reach all families in all schools, in all communities, so that we help all students to do their very best, to reach their best potential. And we have to work at it. It's not magic. It's not easy. And it isn't instantaneous. It takes a bit of time. So we say all means all. And so we really have to think about how we go about this step by step, patiently. Some people want everything to occur all at once, and we're going to reach our goals all this year. Doesn't happen that way. But we can make progress every year, and people do. So the sites that have worked with us in the national network over the past 28 years, they make progress. We've been measuring it every year. Now we're asking district level leaders to do that measuring. Finally, lesson 7. We have to think of researchers too as having an agenda to keep getting better. So research must continue to improve. What does that mean? It means we must always keep asking a new or deeper, better question, the next question. And we have to apply the most rigorous methods we can to address the new questions that we ask. So we don't want to go back in time to the 1960s and just do what they did then. We have to push forward. And really, what that really means in advanced research strategies is to have longitudinal data so that we can see impact from point 1 to point 2 to point 3, and not expect that we're going to be able to understand everything in what we call a snapshot, one-time study. One time gives us a snapshot. Longitudinal data gives us a moving picture of progress. So we still have a big research agenda to improve too. So lessons 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 may apply to schools, districts, and states, but we have a responsibility too to keep improving the studies that are done, new questions, more interesting, deeper kinds of questions, and more rigorous analyses. So let's review. We've come to the end of my story, and we're coming to the questions that we're going to ask each other. But what we've been saying all across these slides is every district, organization, really needs, and I would say state as well, needs a designated leader who's an expert on partnerships, who can be credible and believed and useful to all the people who are under their kinds of tutelage or assistance or responsibility, so that they are guiding all schools. Here's our favorite afternoon word: to design, implement, and continually improve. Remember, we're not talking magic. Design, implement, and continually improve their partnership programs. To do what? To reach all families, to be helpful to all students, to help them reach their full potential. At the school level, what we've learned is that each school needs a team, an action team for partnerships, or however you want to name it, that writes a plan for each school year and that links that plan to the school improvement goal, so that this is a goal-linked partnership program for student success, and that the school is going to improve its program from year to year to reach more families who were previously unengaged or forgotten or omitted unintentionally or whatever. We start from wherever each school is starting from. Some schools right now are quite advanced on this agenda. Other schools are not. They're not quite advanced, and they're just beginning this road, what I call the path to partnership. So this is pretty simple. We have 2 stories of those 7 lessons. Let's have districts and organizations with a true expert leader for partnerships who is going to help each of the schools in their location have a team, write a plan. Let's get on with it. And if we go off this agenda, we are wasting time. So that's the kind of the summation of the 7 lessons that I shared with you today. So what do we do at Johns Hopkins University? What are we trying to do? We're trying to help people use research-based tools and training and resources, or model theirs after what we have learned. We provide ongoing technical assistance. We call it on-call technical assistance to those that join us as leaders. In our new work, we call the leaders who join our work. Barbara Boone is one of them, as a professional development partner. We use coordinated planning and evaluation tools so that you meet Title I requirements. And we open up networking opportunities. What the Ohio Network has done so excitedly to us is they, by the work they're doing with all of you, created the Ohio Network of Partnership Schools. Yay, that is really good. And so now NPS at Johns Hopkins is able to be a network of networks. We hope to see a network that we're developing with leaders in Connecticut. They'll have the Connecticut Network of Partnership Schools. And we have others who are building networks in Louisiana. We will have a Louisiana district's network of partnership schools. And we can help networks connect with networks, which is what should be happening. Here are a couple of our resources that are available from publishers. The top left book is our handbook, the Handbook for Action, that really has in it everything we were talking about today. The others that are really most helpful immediately are the 2 Catty Corner books, one on multicultural partnerships, one on family reading nights, that help schools develop those resources for parents at all language groups and varied grade levels. The middle at the top is a book that my colleagues Steve Sheldon and Mavis Sanders have written to stress how important principles are in this work. And the bottom right corner is our textbook, which was upgraded and now in its new edition in 2023 for college courses. Pre-service teachers need help on this too. They can use the handbook up in the top left corner, but they also can look into research in a deeper way in the bottom right corner. So these are available from publishers. These are available from our center. On the web, you can find, at no cost, 10 plus years of books of promising practices collected from the districts and schools and organizations in our network under our prior design. They're wonderful activities on the 6 types, on different goals that are set. And we delved into those books in the center of this slide. There are 18 booklets called samplers, and those are available at no cost on how different places have designed goal-linked activities on those blue worded outcomes, family engagement in reading, math, science, writing, art, health, so on. And so those are in the section on our website. The Promising Practices books are in the Success Story section. Samplers are in the Success Story section. And then over on the right side, we have an interactive homework process called TIPS. Teachers involve parents in schoolwork. The interactive homework is what I was talking about, saying, you know, we don't ask parents to teach every school subject at every grade level for every child at a different ability level. In TIPS, we have over 600, yes, 600 prototype activities in the subjects you see listed there: elementary, early reading, K-3, math, K-5, and in the middle grades, science, math, and language arts in grades 6 to 8, developed with teachers and curriculum leaders to show other teachers how they, homework assignments are made by the teacher of a school, but the teachers can see how one of these a week or so can begin to help students be in charge of their own homework, but engage parents in a conversation about something interesting they are learning in class. That's what TIPS is about. So we have come to the exciting part of this session, and that is our Q&A, where we have your questions for me and then my questions for you. So let's start with your questions for me. Now, if you have a question, Julie is going to recognize you, and you can unmute. Maybe you raise your hand to raise a question live and in person. That would be fun. Or you can put your question in the chat box, and she's been reviewing those and can raise a couple of questions that have been raised already. So your questions for me was, what is not clear that you want to know more about? Or what else did you want to know that I did not cover in this very short kind of overview session on things we've learned about design and structure? So Julie, how are we doing and where are we?
So we are good. We just got one question in the chat, but we had an interesting question before from Danny. Is Danny still here? It was about the difference between ATPs and PTAs, but Danny, feel free to unmute and chime in, or we can just address that question and move on to crystals. And
all right,
yeah,
let's start with that, because that's a good question. Mm-hmm. We get that question all the time. You know, schools will say to us, oh, we would love to do this, but we have too many teams already. We have a school improvement team, or we have a PTA or PTO, but neither the school improvement team nor the PTA or PTO covers all 6 types of engagement in the way that we were talking about it. So let's start with the school improvement team. A school improvement team is really in charge of everything that's happening at the school. They'll be looking at test scores or teachers needed or spotlights on the parking lot or all kinds of things having to do with a good school. And often the school improvement team will hear reports or get kinds of messages from each of the good committees that are happening in the school. Family engagement is one of those committee structures or groups or sort of leadership areas that can report to the school improvement team, get their input, let them know how they're progressing from year to year, only about family engagement, community connections, not about all the other things that happen at a school. The PTA or PTO is really part of what we call type 5 in the 6 type framework. So they are typically concerned about policy at the school, school rules, or they may be supporting specific activities. A PTA or PTO may run or fund a book swap or a visiting author. And they can be a very helpful part of a school's action team for partnerships. So on the slide that said who's on the team, you saw that in addition to teachers, parents, the principal, we put that others are added to that team, including a representative of the PTA or PTO or parent organization can be part of that action team for partnerships, because those groups, the parent groups at the school, can take over certain parts of this agenda and either fund them or run them in ways that really are very helpful to the action team for partnerships. What PTAs or PTOs do not do is they do not work or take the teacher's kind of responsibilities for designing homework or thinking about how families would be engaged with the health department or school nurses, or how they would link to the arts department. They're not really concerned, and it's not part of their charters, to really be looking at curriculum. And so we have various groups in schools that have jobs to do, but they can work together very well. And if you read the books of promising partnership practices that I mentioned on our website, you will see that the best activities that we have put in these books year after year explain how the PTA or PTO was part of and worked with the action team for partnerships on certain activities, like a guest author program, or bringing the community in to provide free books for children to take home for their home library. There are all kinds of roles that every group in the school can play, including each grade level team of teachers, to assist and make the plan that is made each year, the action plan for partnerships, really kind of sing and be a real kind of encouraging learning activity and experience for families and for the children. Hope that answers Danny's question, or he can come back and ask for more.
Thank you. And Crystal had a question. Crystal, feel free to unmute and ask it yourself. But it was essentially about, do we say family engagement? Do we call it family partnerships now? That semantics question.
Yeah. So we don't want to get into a semantics war. Oh gosh, I think it must have been 8 or 9 or more years ago, I was up in Canada giving a talk, and somebody was very sure that anytime I said involvement, they wanted me to change the language to engagement. And what I had to point out was these are synonyms. If you look into Webster, if you look into any dictionary, you will see that engagement, involvement, democratic participation are all synonyms. And sometimes, as I mentioned earlier, we use these words as different words in the same paragraph so that our stories are more interesting. We don't want to get into a semantic if we're talking about synonyms. Some people like to separate. They say, well, involvement is one level and engagement is a higher level of participation. No, they're really synonyms. And so what happens is when people try to parse that into two different definitions, they almost immediately get into trouble because they'll be talking about something and saying, well, involvement means they're involved at home, and then engagement means they're doing something deeper. No, they're really talking about the same thing. And what we say is the general field of study is school, family, and community partnerships. Partnerships includes engagement, involvement, democratic participation, any other kind of synonym of participation and equity that you would like to add in. Don't get involved in a semantic war. It's not worth it. And, if you like the word engagement, use that. If you like the word involvement, okay. But know that you're really talking about programs of what the school can do, what families can do, and what the community can do to help students do their best in school. The problem with parent involvement or parent engagement, as I mentioned earlier, is it sounds like it's all about the parent. And what we're talking about is the partnership to help students do their best in school. So we use these words because they roll off the tongue. They're so easy to say. And that's okay. But don't get into a war about it. It's just not worth it. Just know that the whole story is about good partners. And good partners, even the definition of partners really helps us think this through, that people have different skills and talents or make different contributions to a business or to a school. And so we're really talking about partnerships, involvement, engagement, participation, and representation, and all other good words like that.
Great. And Hillary had an interesting question in the chat and is going to share. So feel free to unmute and turn your video on if you'd like, Hillary.
Hi, sure.
It's a brave person. Yay, Hillary.
Thank you. And thank you for all of your wonderful thoughts. It's really, really helpful. So what I said in the chat is that our current teaching team, and for context, I'm actually in early childhood. So it's a little different, but there's a lot of crossover. So, some of our teachers have expressed feelings of insecurity and feeling intimidated talking to parents. And some of that is just stuff that's, personal work, going to have to work through that. But it is a big factor. And one of the reasons our teachers have resisted opportunities to volunteer at family events, it kind of feels like a thing that, so I'm the family engagement coordinator. So now I'm like, do I need to change the title? It's fine. But it just feels like a thing that I'm pushing when it's something that I want to be just part of our school culture and community. And we have a kind of a core group, especially our admin, who very faithfully show up to these things and engage with families and get to know them well and encourage them. And it's there, it's happening, but we have a significant number of teachers who don't want to come. They don't want to be there if they're not going to get paid, which, I respect and I understand those boundaries. But at the same time, those are the opportunities to actually spend informal time with families and getting to know them better to see those gifts and strengths. And so I was just curious if you had suggestions of how to get teachers on board without breeding resentment.
So that's a great question, Hillary. And this, this is not, it's not a little pill that we say, all right, just take one of these pills and all of those problems are going to disappear. But, historically, I would say, people think that this was and is so easy at the preschool level. And the fact of the matter is that most preschools have rather perfunctory partnership programs, and they face the same issues that you raised. But in our network, I would invite you and others to take a look in our books of promising partnership practices, because we have a national leader that actually is in Ohio, in Cleveland, in an organization called Starting Point or Invest in Children, or the Cuyahoga County Universal Pre-K program. And she has been working with us for many years to try to understand how to engage parents at that level. And her examples that are in these books are wonderful. And what she really learned is that, again, leadership at the organizational level, or your leadership as the I forget what you called your title, but coordinator for your school, your one school or multi-schools, really is very important. So having a team at the school is still part of a preschool program. When the team has a plan for the year and starts to implement it with good activities linked to the goals for student learning at the preschool level, which is very real. There are real pre-kindergarten learning outcomes for your preschool children. And they start to work and bring in families or send things home with families. The teachers who are hesitant will begin to see this is actually fun. It actually brings joy to the school. And they will begin to see that this is really helpful to them and to how they link to their children, their students at that level. Preschools are typically trying to work toward successful kindergarten transition into kindergarten. And so the real question, the underlying question is, do we do that by the teachers working alone? I'm the teacher. I'm going to help my preschool children with reading readiness or math readiness or whatever is on for the curriculum that year. Or are we going to work together so that families are also seen as part of the story of getting kids ready for kindergarten? And they will see it. It's like a tsunami or a tidal wave. People begin to see that this really matters to the parents. Preschools typically have parents who bring their children to the building in the morning, pick them up at the afternoon. Depends on what else is happening in your building. But I would refer you to two things then. One, take a look at the website, www.partnershipschools.org. In the section called Success Stories, look in the books of promising partnership practices for the preschool examples, and you will see what I'm talking about. Or, if you would like, we have a report that we did several years ago that's looked at 95 preschool studies. Yes, 95, 95 of them. And analyzed the results of those studies to see what family engagement at preschool did for reading readiness and math readiness, and which families were engaged and how many, and what did all of these, if you took all the studies together, what did all of their results show? And if that is of interest to you, just send me an email, jepstein@jhu.edu. You'll see it later on the screen, and ask for the preschool report done with Francis Van Voris and our colleagues at MDRC, one of the research organizations that's very much into this and many other topics. And you'll see the results of why is this important. Maybe sharing some of that with these hesitant teachers may be helpful, or start with the teachers who are not hesitant and see if that doesn't begin to show the life and charm and fun that these programs bring to the preschool. Now, the question of payment is a little tricky, but sometimes school leaders or the district has a kind of a guideline, says, well, our teachers are expected to have 3 nights a year that they engage with families, the parent-teacher conference, and this or that. And so you want to see whether this is part of a teacher's contract within your area or not. Or the principal or director of a school may say, we're looking for 3 volunteer teachers to come to this particular activity. Or if others in your schools are in fact paid to come in and either spend extra time or coach time or other time, if others are paid for their effort, then these teachers would have to be paid too. So it really depends on the situation. And if it gets complicated, I would say, if you're from Ohio, you're part of the Ohio Professional Development Partner Agreement with NNPS, and you can check with the leaders at the Ohio Center, or you can, because of their agreement with us, they're able to tell others to contact us and we'll help you out. But we can talk about it and see if I've touched on where the problem is, or if there's a different part of the problem that I'm not hearing. Okay, Hillary?
Yeah, thank you. And I'm taking all that in. You hit all of the points. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, that's good. Do we have more questions, Julie?
We have a question from Andrea about homeschooling. So Andrea, feel free to unmute yourself. Are you there? Okay. The question was, Andrea is looking for some avenues for partnership for the homeschool community and funding opportunities for learning pods. So if you want to start with homeschool and partnerships.
Yes, I heard that question. I didn't quite understand the second question. Was there a second part?
Yeah, also funding opportunities for learning pods. I'm not familiar with that either.
For learning what?
Learning pods.
Pods, P-O-D-S, pods?
Yeah, maybe that's in the homeschool world. So yeah, Andrea, feel free to unmute. Yeah.
So that's complicated. If Andrea's here, she can unmute and video herself into our world. Homeschooling is a tricky problem or a tricky area of this work. There are people who actually have studied homeschooling and family engagement, not many, because homeschooling says it gives a broader set of requirements to the parents to be the teachers or to take materials that are provided often by a district for a homeschooling curriculum or curricula. And so that's pretty tricky. Some homeschooling programs are hybrid in certain ways, meaning they permit connections of the homeschooler with the school or district for different purposes. For example, they may connect homeschooling with the sports department and enable the youngster to be on a school-based team. Or they may connect with a parent organization, a PTA or PTO, so that parents hear more about school policies. So it's very individual, and it's very much a kind of a tricky kind of connection. So I guess I would need to know from Andrea which part of the homeschooling family engagement question are you really interested in, and how would you describe it? And I don't know about funding pods, so I would need a little bit more information about that. But I do know that many of the children who are homeschooled in the early years, by the time they get to middle or high school, are often attending their regular community schools. And that means that the schools where this is happening, even if it's one or two families or quite a number of families, they have an obligation to orient or bring in to integrate homeschooling families who have been working at the younger grade levels. When they come into the actual school, those families need a welcoming kind of activity that is pretty similar to what some schools do for new immigrant families who come to a school, or new language group families who come to a school. So there's a lot of, as I said, this is not a little can we open and everything pops out. It really is a complicated kind of issue. So, you know, we have worked with thousands of schools and hundreds of districts. So if you can make your question very clear, I may have some examples of what people have done, but the research literature on family engagement in homeschooling is not vacant, but it is not really very well populated either. So we would need some more specifics about the question. I see that Art Gerzon Kessler has his hand up.
Thanks, Dr. Epstein. Yeah, my name is Ari, and thanks for your pioneering leadership. It's been really instrumental in shaping the Families and Educator Together teams that we have here in Colorado, and recently finished a book around. And I just wanted to ask you, you've been at this so deeply for more than 4 decades. What do you feel like catalyzes family partnerships being prioritized more often nationally as well as within our local systems? Because I know the Chicago research says it's one of the 5 keys to moving from a good to great school or district, but what over the last 40 years have been the catalysts at certain moments of time, as we really hope to see this more of a national movement with every passing year?
Right. Well, that's a very interesting question. Many layers, Ari. One quick answer of sort of what has been going on that makes a difference in the story that I was telling today about the importance of district level leaders has been the addition at the district level to what they call the strategic plan. Most districts have a strategic plan. Usually it's a 4 or 5 year plan that says what the board, the school board, or the school board plus the superintendent plus whoever else has got a leadership voice, what have they put together as a 5 year plan to really move a district from point this to point that, that's really going to help do specific things like increase the graduation rate to 95% or something of that nature. So we have learned in many of the districts we work with that if they can get the topic of family, school, community partnerships into the strategic plan, a 5-year plan, then that district becomes committed to that work the same way as they're working toward other goals. So that's not a historic kind of pattern, but is a very important one of district leadership that I've been talking about today. Historically, at the federal level, there have been several kind of red letter days or years that have happened over the course of time that have moved this field from its very, very early beginnings to its current work. For example, in the 1980s, I think it was, there really was the first Title I section of the ESEA, the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, which is what gives Title I schools their funding from the federal level. And they have, I'm sure many of you know, along the way there was the No Child Left Behind Act that people knew that name about. But prior to that, there were some other No Child Left Behinds with different names. The current one is called ESSA, the Every Student Succeeds Act. That is where the Title I funding and requirements are located. And each one of those along the line, every time the ESEA Act got restated by the Congress of that particular era, they changed or improved family engagement focus from the very beginning, which was way back at the initial ESEA or one of the early ones. And all that act at that time said was there should be a family engagement committee, a policy committee, and typically for an improvement plan in those days, it included 1 or 2 parent voices. Parents had to be on this committee, and perfunctorily, districts added 1 or 2 parents to this policy committee. That was really a beginning of all of this stuff, but the parent voices were very weak. It wasn't that they were necessarily listened to, and often the people holding those positions were really speaking for themselves. And so it really wasn't that every school would have a team and write a plan and actually have that work. Then that sort of grew and got more specific, and now there really is a section of Title I requirements for every school or district or state that gets Title I funding, which is just about everywhere. And for the districts with particularly a large number of economically stressed families, the section of ESSA in the ESEA legislation is really about, they renamed it to say parent and family engagement. The one before this said parent engagement or parent involvement. So they're slowly taking the federal policies that provide funding to places, which is the power of the purse, and making it more and more specific. Our research and other research has gone into the development of that over time. From the early one I mentioned, put 2 parents on a policy committee and hope they speak up, even if they're just speaking for themselves, all the way up to every school will have a way to reach all families in subject areas that help children succeed. So there has been somebody who would like to see that. I think it's in several of our documents. Write me a note and we'll send you a copy of something that documented the increments toward school-based teamwork for outcome-driven family engagement at all grade levels in all schools. So you're quite right. It's a very interesting historic question. But even the federal policies that we're talking about are not as powerful for what happens in a district as when a district actually puts this into their strategic plan for their own work in their own schools, where they're trying to reach a particular set of outcome goals.
Thanks so much, Dr. Epstein.
Was that helpful to what you're asking, or do you need some information?
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate it. And I'll reach out. Thank you so much.
Also in Colorado, by the way, one of my former staff members is now the head of the Colorado State Department of Education section
Hutchins.
on family engagement, Darcy Hutchins, and she is super well versed in what we've been talking about, and was co-author with me on many things. So check with Darcy too, and we would like to see Darcy's group or your group or whoever it is become one of our professional development partners, or anyone else who's listening who would like to really do this work. We have a section of our website that is our new direction, and it's offering a lot of on-call or ongoing professional development activities and support. Does have a fee, but you have to pay for it. But it really would be helpful, and we'd love to see Colorado represented in there somewhere. Colorado has done a great job with Darcy's leadership to get this going in many locations. So we think that we would be good partners.
Looking forward to it. Thanks so much.
Okay, we've got to move on unless there's a final question, Julie. I want to get to my questions for you and hear what people have to say.
We could move on. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm asking those of you who are here with us and are brave like our colleagues have been to unmute and show your video self to any one of these questions that I'm asking of you. So someone who would like to share an aha moment, or what you heard that convinced you that this conference theme of design is really important, or how you would use anything you heard today in your own location. I'd like to know that too. So if you're a brave soul, any one of those questions for the next couple of minutes before we have to close, I'd like to hear what you have to say. Somebody's brave, I'm very sure of it. Let's take them in turn. Maybe that's too much to ask at one time. So, somebody who had an aha moment, something I talked about that you did not think about before. I see LaMonica.
Hello, something that you, and I think I shared it in the chat that stuck out. We are so often focused on the academic portion, but we fail to recognize that behavior and the arts is important as well.
I think that's a very important observation, LaMonica. You know, one of the most exciting activities to me over the last many years in our books of promising practices are the ones that focus on art, music, dance, and other things that parents and community partners just adore when schools engage their youngsters in these areas and then help the youngsters show and share what they have done in their art classes or in their music classes. One that stands out to me in a recent memory was a school that had each grade level choose their favorite reading book, their favorite storybook for the year. And the children at each grade level in that school had to vote on which was their favorite reading book. And then they had their music teacher help the kids write a song for that book. And they had their gym teacher have the kids design a dance for the book. And they had a parade through the community showing the book, the music, the dance. It was fantastic. So, the whole thing of not just reading. School isn't just about math. School is also about talent development. And parents just really love that. Or many schools do a kind of an end of year gallery walk through the whole school where every child has chosen one picture they've done or painting or some art project, and every single child is displaying something that they learned in art somewhere in the hallways of a school. The parents are invited, grandparents and community partners, to walk through the school and see the products of the art program in a school. It's really wonderful. So there's all kinds of ways that I say this brings joy to schools. And we'd love to see the variations on these themes that are available. I see Sandy Perry. Do you have something that you want to add to one of these questions?
I just think for me, the big aha moment is just how important the district leaders are. Because I often think that if they empower families and set goals that with the families, I just think that is so important. And I love the word partnership, because I think when we talk about engagement, it does seem like we're expecting them to engage, but we have nothing to do with it or nothing for them to bring to the table. So I really, really like the fact that leaders really can make a difference in making that a partnership, and just making that aware to leaders how valuable they are. I think sometimes they forget how valuable they really are in welcoming families.
You bet. And Sandy, you're, I see, in SST 16. So you have many districts in your region that you assist. And we're relying on the regional leader like yourself and your team, your colleagues, to work with the Ohio Center. And we've been inspired by what you have been able to do. And so hoping that this year, next year, whatever you and your partners will scale up to get other districts to have that leader that you guide, so that they, the leader of the different districts, can guide all the schools in their district. Wouldn't that be something else? Because
yes,
that reaches thousands of parents. How many districts in SST 16? About
24.
24 districts? That's a lot of
Yes.
districts. So if you if you thought about it, I'm not sure how many are part of your network right now, but I don't think it's 24. But you have a lot to scale up, and year by year, if you begin to grow that program, think of if you get that district to do what it's supposed to do, it will help that many schools. And if that many schools can do what they're supposed to do, they will reach that many families. And that begins to run into the thousands. So keep at it, Sandy. And I would like to see some of the active SSTs become our professional development partners too, so that we know you're being helped by the Ohio leaders who are super, but people across the country would like to know what you're doing too, and you might like to know what others across the country are doing. So you can see that on our website, or you can send me a note and talk about it. But, you know, it is a choice. You don't need it because you're really doing well in Ohio, but Ohio is not the only place in the universe, even though sometimes we think it is. M. Walker, did you have a comment?
Yes, Dr. Epstein, thank you for everything that you have shared. And I just wanted to say the part that you said just about all parents want to be involved in their child's education. A lot of teachers, I don't think or believe that parents really want to be involved. I think this is something that we really, really will have to work on, to let teachers know that you have to be sure that you believe that and you include them. So the part about, just about all parents, can you talk to that, just about all parents?
Well, I like to say all parents, because mostly that's what we see. That does not mean that every parent is going to come to the school building on Tuesday at 2:30 because there's a meeting. What it means is that we have to activate the 6 types of engagement in our school plans so that people can become engaged or involved in ways that are sensible and feasible for them. However, there are times when almost all parents really do come to a building. I know that usually the open house night is a very popular time that people can meet each other. I remember a school where the teachers meeting the parents on an open house night had a questionnaire for parents, and the first question was, what do you want me to know about your child, about his or her special talents? Mm-hmm. That's a great question, because it's not saying, how can my child get in trouble?
Yes.
It's about teachers knowing what parents know about their kids. And that's the more important focus for schools to have with their parents. Now, what we have learned are a couple of things. One is, if a school runs an activity where the children are the stars and they are the presenters or the talent or the showmans or the guides of parents, or if they are included in what would be called a parent-student-teacher conference, as opposed to a parent-teacher conference, parent-student-teacher conference, more parents who didn't come would come. Because anytime the child is engaged and involved and the star of the partnership activity, more parents who weren't there before get involved.
I agree.
And so how we design the school-based action plan that the action team writes each year can be guided by good district leaders to emphasize the role that students play in family engagement. Sometimes we forget that. We still often think this is about the parent instead of about the student. Other places are doing more either home visits or community drive-throughs or community visits, so that the parents and teachers meet on a kind of a neutral street level or
Mhm.
some way, so that they see, we all care about our kids. And it really changes the myths that some people have about some parents, and shows that, they may not come to school. As I say, they may not be visible at school, but they're still engaged with their children at home. And that opens up the whole interactive homework question. So there are many, many, many ways of dealing with the reality you expressed, but it is a solvable kind of problem over time, understanding that there are many different ways to address it.
I appreciate that. It lets me know that there is still hope for all of us.
And if you really want to see, take a look, anybody who's here today, take a look at the Promising Partnership Practice books that feature 40, 50, 80, depending on the year that you open. They're all free. They're open access books, but they feature the activities that are being conducted or that were conducted in a particular year by the schools in our network, by the districts in the network. And they really show that the design, the topic of our conference today, the design of these activities to reach the kinds of challenges you each have raised in this Q&A period. So don't give up hope. They really are ways that, if we think about it and think together and use the resources that are available, it really is kind of a progress that can be seen across schools, districts, organizations, regions, and states. And Julie, we actually have gotten through a lot of our time here, so I'm going to just close this up with a couple of final slides. Is that okay? And then anyone who still has a question in the chat box or wants to contact me, in a moment you'll see the email address, and we love to hear what's on people's minds. So as I was just saying to Ms. Walker and to Sandy in Region 16 or SST 16, if your district organization wants to become a professional development partner, you just go and fill out the preliminary agreement on the NNPS website. I'm going to show you one that isn't in yellow that you can see better. Part of this recorded session, I've included several resources that are helpful and can make your planning easier with some good examples. So you can look at the reference page in this presentation. Here's our website, www.partnershipschools.org. And here is my email that we answer all questions. It may take a little bit at this point in the year, but we do get to answer all questions. And we want to hear how you heard what I talked about today on the design of and structure of programs of family, school, community partnerships, and how this might help you in your location. So, Julie, I think we can end there. What do you think?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Epstein. We will end right after presenting the contact code and then close. So, but first, I just want to say thank you so much, Dr. Epstein, for sharing your time and knowledge with us today. Everyone's joining in the chat. Also thanking you, and I want to thank all of you for spending the day at the Ohio Family Engagement Leadership Summit. We hope that you can take some of the knowledge from today and apply it to your work tomorrow. The leadership doesn't stop here. Be sure to be on the lookout for emails from our engagement center for follow-up opportunities to the summit. So let me share my screen now. One moment.
Okay, so I'm going to stop share.
So first, Dr. Epstein mentioned, but I also want to just let everyone know so that they're aware that we have the Ohio statewide family engagement center hosts the Ohio Network of Partnership Schools. So we have embraced Dr. Epstein's NNPS approach to building strong connections. And I will drop the link in the chat in a moment if you'd like to check it out, and feel free to contact us if you have any questions. And then here is the code for the day. So if you would like to request contact hours for the session, please save this code and enter it in the feedback survey at the end of the day. I will also paste this code in there in a moment as well. And you can also do the QR code on your phone. So the code is PLAN, P-L-A-N, PLAN. So please jot that down so that you can get your contact hours.